Shabbat Shalom, good evening. This week's parasha is the second parasha in the Torah, Parashat Noach. The parasha of Noach starts more than 1,500 years after the first parasha started, after creation. We're talking about generation that is full of bad deeds. We're talking about corrupt world when there is no any kind of musar, of good behavior, of life structure, no families, no any kinds of good behavior in the world. As the Torah call it, "Vatimale haaretz Hamas," that the world is full with Hamas. Hamas means in this Torah portion, it means stealing and killing. So, there is one family that God choosing to save, a family of Noach, that God, the Torah describing Noach, Tzaddik Tamim. He was a perfect righteous in his generations. He was perfect righteous. Actually, the only person that the Torah describes, the Torah giving us his level, his importance, his holiness. Tzaddik Tamim. The Torah not saying this so about Abraham, about Yitzchak, about Yaakov, no one, not about Moshe. But then we have a midrash. The midrash saying that Moshe and Noach argued, even though of course they didn't argue in the physical world, but maybe in the spiritual world. That Noach telling Moshe, I am better than you, because from me started, all the world started. Everything came from me. So my holiness is greater. I'm not here to explore the two, what is the purpose of this argument, but the sides that they're bringing. And Moshe telling him, yes, you are great. Tzaddik Tamim, as the Torah is saying, a perfect righteous. But there is two captains of a ship. One captain of a ship, when there is a storm, he's saving himself. But one captain saved himself and all the crew. And I did not save only myself, I saved all the crew with me. So this is the argument of Moshe and Noach. If we're going back to our parasha, there is a word in the parasha that it's interesting. That the Torah said that the rain started falling, the flood started, and then the Torah said that Noach went inside to the ark because the rain started. And our sage is saying, why the Torah need to say he went inside the teva, the ark, because the rain started? Of course he went inside the teva. He was building the teva for 120 years, as the tradition is, as our sage is saying. So, of course, he went inside the teva. And here, Rashi is saying, he went to the teva because of the rain, because he waited. Till the last moment, he waited outside. He couldn't believe it's going to happen. Miktanei amana. He had a small belief. And here, again, rising the question, how come you can say about Noach that he had a small belief? He was tzaddik tamim, he was a full righteous. So what is the issue with Noach? That he argued with Moshe, and Moshe saying, I'm greater because I did not save only myself, I saved the crew. And here we have Rashi that's saying that he will have a small belief. How we can say I have a small belief? So on that we have the answer. That the answer is, it's true, he was a perfect tzaddik. But he had a small belief. How come? So there is explanation by a great rabbi, a great tzaddik. The tzaddik is Rabbi Levi Yitzchak from Barditchev. a known famous Hasidic tzaddik, that he explained that Noah had no problem believing in God. This is not the problem. When we saying that, when the Torah is saying that he had a small belief, it's not talking about his belief in God. Of course, he believed in God. He built the ark for now 120 years, and everybody that came to him and asked, "Why are you doing that?" So he explained that God told me. He spoke with God. Of course, he believed in God, but he had a small belief in himself. He didn't believe enough in the power of himself to change the situation. Moshe, when God telling Moshe that I'm going to destroy the nation and will start a new nation from you, Moshe said, don't count me in. Stop with this plan. If you need me to participate in this plan, I don't want to do it. You should erase my name from the book if you think that I can do such a thing, that you will create a new nation instead of the Jewish people. So Moshe argued with God, and even we know that Abraham also argued with God. When God told him that he's going to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham wanted the opposite. So this is the Jewish thing to do. Not only to believe in God, of course, but also to believe in the power of ourselves. Noah did not know how to do so. It was not in his system. When God told him to do the ark, he did. Did he believe in God? Of course he did. But he couldn't believe that he will be the new world will come from him. If I'm going to be saved, probably everyone going to be saved because I'm not greater. He was terrific tzaddik. He was an unbelievable righteous, and but he didn't saw his value. And this is something that it's a bit problematic, because a person with value should recognize his value, and he should recognize that he have a power that he need to influence. This value was giving you not for vain, not only for yourself. It was giving you in order to inspire others. So Moshe fight with his value against who? Against the God that he believed in, of course. Moshe argued with God, Abraham argued with God, and this is the power. And that is when we're saying that Noah had small belief in who he had small belief in himself. There is, it's written in one of the most famous books of Hasidut, not of Chabad, but one of the famous books of Hasidut, that it's written that the same that a person should believe in God, he should believe in himself in the same way. Now, why is that? How come Moshe, that the Torah telling about Moshe that he was the most humble person in the world? We can think that Noah was much more humble than Moshe because he didn't think about himself so much. But Moshe did because he argued with God. But the truth is, it's the opposite. How come Moshe could fight about his people, about his nation with God? How can you argue with God? And why you should argue with God? Obviously, God doing the right things. So the point is that Moshe, how Moshe looked upon himself. He was, of course, the greatest prophet in all generations. He was the holiest person in the Jewish nation. He spoke with God, and he knew his specialty. He knew how God chose him to be this holy person, to be the leader of Jewish nation. But he knew that all of his abilities, all of his powers, coming directly from God. It's all because God decided so. So that's why he was 100% humble with recognizing his powers. So, in the same way, every Jew can be 100% certain of his abilities and to understand that those abilities are from God. And God chose every Jew to be his son and to influence the world and to be humble, because we recognizing that all the powers that we have is from God. And I'm talking about few powers. First of all, every person have some people that he can influence. Second thing, we can influence on God himself. We can pray for God. We can ask from God whatever we want. And God is there to listen. I'm not sure how and if and when we're going to see God's miracles. But the truth is that there is, and God listening to every prayer and every wish and heart wish of a Jew. Why? Because He chose every Jew to have powers and to be His son. And if the Jew recognizing it, it's not saying that he is ignorant. It means that he recognizing the powers that God gave him, and it's not that I didn't choose to do it. God chose it, and but you're not ignoring the powers, the infinite powers that you have. You're recognizing them. I'm saying infinite powers because they are infinite, because the power is coming from God Himself, and God Himself is infinite. So if we're recognizing those powers, and we're praying for God and we're influencing others, it means that we only using the powers that we have. And this is the purpose of power. The purpose of power of something that we have, that God gave us, it's in order to use them. That's why we should do some good deeds. Ask from God to save us and to give us blessings and to influence the world that God created. This is what we are learning from the Parashat of Noach. There is another small issue that I want to mention. From one hand, in the time of Noach, God destroyed the world. But, of course, it was like purification. The water, the world sit in water for 40 days, and it was a purification system for all the world that was so corrupt. From the other hand, in the same time that there is rain in the world and water from on the ground and everything, God miraculously saving Noah and his family. The ark was a miracle. God can do those two things in the same time. Last Shabbat was a terrible thing. In Simchat Torah was a terrible things happening in Israel. From one hand, those things happened in the morning, starting with the morning, Saturday morning. From the other hand, my family telling me that Saturday in the morning, the rockets start coming to Tel Aviv, and there is alarm, and the family need to go into the shelter. Now, they didn't hear the alarm, and they went inside in the last moment. They went into the stairs of the building, and then they felt the rocket falling on the ground. It fell in very small streets, narrow streets, neighborhood between the buildings. Very big rocket that came from Gaza till Tel Aviv, and it came in the playground, kids' playground outside in the street. No one was there. It was 6:30 in the morning. This is a miracle. This is a miracle. It was packed neighborhood in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is very packed, very a lot of people living there near each other, and it went in the middle of the buildings to empty place. We can say this miracle, even though we know that in the same time terrible, terrible, terrible things happening a few kilometers from them in southern Israel. The same thing we can say miracles that happened in the Holocaust. How you can say miracles happening in the Holocaust? because God is in there, those places both. And sometimes He wants to choose Him to show Himself in this way, and sometimes in another way. And we need to remember that. So sometimes you can feel uncomfortable when people saying stories of miracles that happened for them last Saturday, Simchat Torah. But sometimes you need to remember that it's true, it was a miracle. But because everything is a miracle, because God is in everything. We know we just need to use our powers to influence others, to use the powers that God gave us to change the world for the better, and only to add more light. And in the end, we will win this war that we have. Each and every Jew have this war against Jewish hatred and against darkness. Shabbat shalom and good news.